My name is Shakira Refos, and I am the Education Outreach Manager for the California Film Institute. I'd like to welcome you to the Mill Valley Film Festival Contender season. It's our celebration of awards track talent. Today, I am beyond honored to be joined by director and producer Lee Daniels and actress, singer, songwriter Andra Day. And I want to start by congratulating you both on a beautiful film and on the nominations that you have received so far. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Let's get started.
Well, I have a question first, Shakira.
Yes.
How do you pronounce your name again?
Shakira.
Shakira, let me ask you something. When did Mill Valley bring color up in there? Because this is fabulous.
Hey!
Let's start there, okay?
Let's start there.
Let's start there. Let's start there. You know, this ain't my first time at the rodeo, Shakira. So I've been up there a couple times, and it's nice to see me up there representing.
Yeah. It hasn't been easy, but change is happening very fast over here. I'm pushing, and it's working. I'm here in front of you right now. So
well, I wish we could be there in person because Mill Valley's so spectacular, and
it's beautiful.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's really what I'm saddest about. Like, they would always tell me, because again, we didn't know things were going to be shut down on set, so they would tell me, I was so in the movie headspace. They would go, promo is gonna, you just see these amazing places and these da-da stuff as well too. And then COVID was like, nah, you get if you want to event, maybe like IHOP.
I know, I'm so sorry for that, but I have a feeling that you will at some point be visiting us during the Mill Valley Film Festival or some other time.
I hope so, yeah.
Thank you so much. So in the United States versus Billie Holiday, you take a look at a story we've been told about a tragic, addicted songstress. Billie Holiday has historically been portrayed as a junkie, and you reframe her role in American history. You do this by telling the truth about her trouble with law enforcement as one of a deliberate freedom fighter who becomes the target of harassment by the FBI through her music. When I'm in a classroom with students, I tell them that we as adults often do a terrible job of telling them the truth about history. My question to you, Lee, there are many Black creatives in our history whose narratives have been erased or skewed. It's systemic. You could have told many stories. Why did you choose to honor Miss Billie Holiday in a major feature?
Because I didn't know her story, and I didn't know what Strange Fruit meant. The movie that began my career as a filmmaker as a teenager was Lady Sings the Blues, and it was beautiful with two beautiful Black people starring in it, Billy D. Williams and Diana Ross, and the humor of Richard Pryor. It was a beautiful tale with beautiful people and fashion and music and food and Harlem and everything, And so when I find out at 58 years old that is not the story, when I find out what Strange Fruit means for the first time at 58 years old, and I think I know a little bit about Black history, when I find out that the government at 58 years old tracked her down, literally chased her, did everything they could to stop her from singing that song, and what it really meant, I was embarrassed, and I thought to myself, how many other stories are there that we don't know about? And I couldn't live with myself if I didn't tell SLP's story.
Thank you. I want to also really honor the way that you framed her strength in the story. This was not a weak woman. And you could tell that the moment where I believe she's auditioning a saxophonist, and you just see her say quickly, like, it's not clicking. Like, she tells her team, like, it's not clicking. And like, boom, 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 things happen. Like, she's on top of it.
Love that.
This is not a weak woman, and you do an awesome job of telling the audience that.
Thank you. It's important to know that Lady Sings with Diana, she was a woman that America needed to see at the time, and they would have never appreciated the truth. But I think with time, we are now dealing in a time where we can see a strong woman like that, and really see Billie's story, see Billie as the strong woman that she was. And it was really hard to do. It was hard for both Andra and myself to do, because it's a tightrope. You know, she's fragile, but she's strong,
Mhm.
and she's determined, but she's hurt. It's a lot of things going on that tightrope as we're walking. And one false movement, you'd have fell off that thing, girl. You'd have fell off that tightrope.
Andra, I have a question for you. I read in an interview about 2 weeks ago that you, at that point, had not yet seen the film.
Oh,
I'm so sorry,
when
but
are we gonna do this? They're gonna keep bringing it up. When we gonna do this?
Listen, Andra,
I
she's a sister,
ask.
so you know she's coming for us.
I'm not there.
And there's a reason. There is a
No,
reason why there's a reason why I'm asking. So have you watched your own performance?
I haven't yet. I have not seen my performance yet, and there was a reason why I didn't watch it. You know what I mean? Like, which is interestingly enough, if were not in the movie and had not had these such personal experiences with Lee, with Billie herself, with my cast, I mean, this movie would have been a movie I would have been like jumping at. You know what I mean? To see immediately, probably reaching out. Can I get? But I was so terrified. I don't know. I am. I wish I could be more one of those, like, watch myself and be like, wow, I was really great. But I'm like one of those, like, girl, why the hell didn't you do this? And you didn't listen, and he asked you to do this and you didn't do that. You know what I mean? Like, so I have to work on that. Also, for me, it was like, for me, watching the movie feels like closing the chapter of my life that I'm not ready to close. I will
That's
say
the real reason.
that's the real reason. I'm not. And I will say I'm more balanced now. You know, I'm not like I said, was telling Lee earlier, I'm not like at a cliff point the way I was when we ended filming, but it was like my memories on set of just like working with him, the production, you know, my co-stars, working with Trey, with Tyler, Divine, Lawrence, you know, like with you know, hair and makeup people. Even my contact lady was so sweet. It was just that moment, and I love feeling her. I love the way she feels inside, you know what I mean? And like, and then Montreal and the air, it was like, it just felt like watching the movie I wasn't ready to sort of alter that experience with the culmination of everything. It just felt like as soon as I watch it, then it goes, okay, chapter's closed. And I just am like, fuck, it's such a huge part of my life for 3 years now that I wasn't ready to close the chapter for sure.
How does it feel to receive the flowers that everybody must be giving you?
How did you know that?
I, everybody's talking about it, girl.
Are you getting flowers?
Yeah, I get flowers. Yeah.
I ain't getting no damn flowers.
Hey, but you got me flowers. You was on it because you got me flowers for my birthday.
Wait a minute. Who's sending who flowers? I need some flowers.
The physical and the metaphorical flowers.
Yeah,
oh, okay. All right.
No. I know. How does it? Do you feel gassed up, or are you like, oh no, this is me. This is what I do.
Listen, let me tell you something. If it was up to my daddy, that's exactly how I would be. But I know, I mean, I just feel like, you know, I mean, I'm excited. I feel, but just grateful. You know what I mean? That's the thing, is like, man, this experience was, first of all, just such a God thing for me. And everything emanates from that, you know, spiritual place, from that place of the Lord. And so, but then I'm also grateful just for being brought into the experience. And then I'm grateful because I'm like, oh my God, I had a chance to work with Lee Daniels. Like, I'm like grateful that, I mean, you know, honestly, I did a ton of work, but like, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, Lee, you just have an ability to pull out performances that, to be honest, even when I showed up to set, I'm like, they're not there. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, then he would show me like a daily or something where, you know, because I would have to see what he was trying to get, or something that he was like, trust me, you got it. You know, because and then I'd be like, wow, you know, like how. So it was just, I was so insulated, you know what I mean? I had Lee, I had an incredible cast. All these people are just you know,
Incredible
great,
acting coach, Tasha Smith. You're
incredible acting
incredible.
coach and Tasha,
And your vocals coach, your vocal
dialect
coach.
coach Tom Jones, and then a great script by Suzan-Lori Parks. My castmates, high integrity, even greater talent. Like, you know, so it's just like, you know, it was just, you know, and I don't even know how I'm supposed to say this, but even on to like, you know, Paramount, who was great. And then we shifted over to Hulu as well, too, who have been incredible, you know? And so it's like everywhere along, I think people understand the weight of the movie, of the material and how important it is. And so
Yeah.
I've had a very like, it's been extremely challenging and transformative, but it's also, I feel like a very blessed experience, you know? I don't know if it's always like this, but if it is,
It is not always. No, it ain't like this. Listen,
no, it's not.
trust me.
Andra, you have to understand that maybe part of the reason why it's like this is because it's your performance. I
Oh,
mean,
very
it
much.
really, really, it's
Thank you.
exceptional.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you.
The way that you embody the role, it feels like you must have been immersed in your study of her. You're transformed in a way that has been described as nothing less than iconic. So I want to shift and ask you about your study of Billie Holiday. I'm confident in knowing that the ancestors are always behind me,
Oh, that's a
looking
blessing.
out for me. I'm not a religious person, but I have faith in that. It's not just generational trauma that lives in me, but I rely on generational strength.
Yes, absolutely.
In the study that it took to become Billie Holiday, the way that you did in this film, I'm curious to find out if you ever dreamt about her, if she ever spoke to you in your dreams, and how you got to know her.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, honestly, all of those things. And I was just explaining to someone how the whole experience truly felt like an out of body experience. You know what I mean? And so it felt like there was an intermingling of our spirits, but it also felt a little bit in my own head like I was a spectator of her. You know what I mean? Like I had said this before, but there were so many moments on set because she kind of will go from subject to subject. You know what I'm saying? Like fluid, but it's still zero segue. You know what I mean? So I always say she'll go from telling you about some terrible experience to the South to like how Lester loved her mama's pancakes or something. You know what I'm saying? Or loved her like cooking. Or like, hey, you know, I'll teach you how to make pig's feet. Like she was just like, boop, 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 you know what I mean? So like there would be moments literally on set, I'd have to sit in my dressing room, I'd have to stop and I'd have to be like, lady, where are we at? You know what I mean? Like what's happening right now? Like what are we doing for this moment? You know what I mean? And like, and I used to have to reel her back in, like, ladies, where we, you know, like, so, but it was honestly, it was a prayer, you know, for me, I am a deeply spiritual person and I asked for her, I did ask for her and I asked, and one of the things Tasha actually would say to me was talking about checking into the Billie Holiday dream, you know what I mean? Like checking in and checking out of it. And that
What does
was,
that mean? What does that mean?
it was, I don't know what it means exactly, but I know what it felt like, you know what I mean? And it's exactly what I explained, like in a sense that I felt like I was a spectator in my own head and in my own body, you know what I mean? And so like, and then again, there were just, I mean, we'd have conversations and, you know, most of the time she was cussing a lot. She cussed a lot. But, and so we'd have conversations and then, you know, and then there was one dream I had about her actually where we were, well, I say we were performing because I was watching her perform. And then as she's performing, it was almost like, I guess I had been on set too long at this time because it's like the camera panning around, but as she's performing and the camera sort of changing or the viewpoint is changing, like I see the microphone and I see the audience. So I'm like, okay, well, clearly it's me singing and clearly it's, you know what I mean? Like, and so that was just like, it was a weird feeling because it was, again, like I said, being, and then it was also spectating at the same time. And I think that's what it means. Maybe that's what the Billie Holiday dream meant, was sort of being, but also being a spectator at the same time. So I was just following her lead, honestly, the entire time. It sounds so crazy, but that's how it felt, you know.
Lee, when did you know that Andra was the one?
Well, I didn't want her to be the one.
Yeah.
And nor did she want to be the one.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I got a videotape from, you know, her acting coach sent me a clip of her jumping into character, leaving Andra and going into Billie, and her nails were all messed up. Like she was just like, and it was really Andra a little bit too, but is the nail thing that got me. It was just so real. It was like the nail was chipped, and I was like, who? This is she's messy, but this is what. And like this is, and then I realized, oh my God, I'm watching the birth of a soul. This is crazy. And then and then she auditioned, and she was spectacular. And then she kept, along the way, she would give me audio tapes of her talking, and every audio tape of her talking, she says, am I in the zone? I went, oh yeah, you in the zone. You in the zone. So I knew that by the time we got to set, and when we were doing a costume test, I had the girls, there's a scene in the film where, I don't know whether you remember, where Louis McCabe is there with Levy and also Divine, and they're in the Italian restaurant, and Divine speaking Italian.
Mm-hmm.
And that originally was written in a car. They were supposed to be having that in the car. So but we couldn't afford it. So we had to shift it up. And so I had the girls go in to just sort of work, more of a work session to see. And I was sitting in the front of the car, and they were in the back of the car, and I was looking in the rearview mirror. I said, just act, guys, act the scene out. And they were bad. They were bad. Like they were like, I was like, oh Lord, what the hell? And I was like, what is going to happen in my movie? I've never had a bad movie. Oh God. And then I don't know what she did. It was that first, I think the first scene that we did was with Tallulah. Was that the first scene where she had to kiss a woman? Okay, that was her first scene. And she dropped. She was like, whoop, whoop. There it is. There it is. There was no question that she was in it. And I called her acting coach and said, we got it. We got it. We got it. Awesome. Natasha knows what I'm talking about. Your audience probably won't, and nor do you, but you get them. You get them.
Lee, in this film, you give space to educate the audience about the trauma that leads to Billie Holiday's struggle with addiction by naming the reason she uses heroin to numb her pain. Generational trauma, assault, abuse, just generally being a Black woman in America.
Yes,
it's also a testament to the way our industry has in the past consumed talent. Do you have any advice for young Black creatives trying to make it in an industry that is moving towards inclusivity, yet is lacking representation? Mm-hmm. And are there parallels from your own career that young Black talent may be able to draw inspiration from?
Yeah, none of my films have been studio films because they don't know how to embrace me. They don't know how to embrace what it is, just as a gay Black man coming in with a very specific lens. And sometimes, you know, the lens is controversial even to my own people, as Billie's work was at the time, which is one of the reasons I connect so much to her. But we are living in our truth. I'm living in my truth. You know, I'm living in what I believe to be unequivocal truth. And so I think that when for the kids out there that are trying to tell story, you cannot you don't not listen to self, because the spirit will tell you. Mm-hmm. And there will be people that have a problem with your truth. Mm-hmm. But as long as you know that it's your truth. And then the question is, how do you get your truth to screen? How do you do that to screen? And I think that for me, my journey has been very specific. I mean, I've gotten, you know, money from drug dealers. I've gotten money from all sorts of places. But so, you know, I think it's not just about show, it's about the business. And you have to do whatever you can do. Not that I'm advising kids, because I would kill my kids right now if they got some money from the drug dealers. But that was when I was young, young Lee Daniels. But you know, I think that I was never going to take no for an answer. Mm-hmm. And I think that you have to, with the great part about cinema today is you have this iPhone that you can make some incredible movies with. I've seen some incredible short films from kids that are far more talented than Lee Daniels that are taking it to other levels that are. So I just think that you have to don't go with what the world is saying is uh, what is chic in the moment of what. Go with what you think is right. You know, and even if people are telling you no, they told me no to Monsters Ball, they told me no to Precious, they told me no to Butler, they just told me nobody wants to see these movies, no one wants to see these movies. No to Billie Holiday. After Empire, you would think no, the studio said no. So I think that you have to go with what God and your, don't ever not listen to the spirit. Spirit will not let you wrong. It's the ancestors talking, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I could talk about the empowering young students to live their truth all day, but we have a few minutes left. I do want to shift into something about education with Andra, if it's okay. Um, Here at the California Film Institute, we place a high value on arts education with a well-resourced year-round K through 12 programming department.
Great.
This is your first role in a major feature, but you have a long history as a performer. You attended a performing arts school as a student. So can you just talk a little bit about how your early exposure to the arts helped you prepare to get to where you are today, and just the importance of its impact?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I place a very high value on arts education, and I think that you know, oftentimes when budgets are cut, you know, arts programs are the first things to go, you know. So it definitely influenced me in every single thing that I do. You know, I mean, listen, I was exposed to Billie Holiday at that school. You know what I mean? That's how I learned about her. That's how I learned about the jazz greats, you know, Ella Fitzgerald, Carmen McRae, Sarah Vaughan, you know, Lena Horne, Nina Simone, you know. So I was exposed to these women at that school, and I was allowed to explore. I was allowed to explore the things I was most passionate about, the things that I loved. And I was just like sort of given techniques and different ideas that I could play with, that I could either use or I could let go of, or, you know, so there at that school, they really sort of emphasized creativity, right? And owning your space and being present, you know what I mean? When you're performing, and understanding that anytime you're performing or you're doing anything in this sort of creative realm, that it's a collaborative thing, right? It seems like a solo mission, but it's never truly a solo mission. You know, in order to do this, Lee had to say yes. You know, people had to say yes. So the other thing about it is, for me, arts education. You know, I grew up in a neighborhood that definitely we had a lot of gangs. You know what I mean? We have like just saturated sort of like Blood City. You know what I mean? And I think people look at these people and they go, "Oh my gosh, they're gangsters and they're dead." I just went to school with them, so they was just in my English class, and they was just in my, you know what I mean, whose parents wanted a future for them as well too. And so I have seen arts education transform a young person's life who would have likely been on the streets, you know what I mean? But instead, they actually see potential, and they actually see, oh wow, there's another option, you know what I mean? And so um, I think that's why I think I'm so big about arts education, especially for our people. We are so deeply entrenched in the arts, and we are the innovators, you know what I mean, of arts, of music, of just these different types of crafts. And so I feel like arts education allows people to see a different path and a different future. And actually, I'll say, not even just on the creative side, but also Jordan Fudge inspired me so much, who funded the film, a Black man who funded this film. I remember being so inspired after meeting him actually at your house, Lee, when you introduced. And I says, I want kids in my neighborhood who went to my school to know that, like, not only if you feel like, oh, I can't sing or I can't dance, then finance a film, because that's a possibility for you too. You know what I mean? And so I don't know if he ever told you, but I told him, I was like, you know, I want to do a conference at my old school if you would ever be willing to come speak, you know, but I just wanted like people to know, okay, learning this experience, you can direct a film, you can write, you can finance a film, you can be, you know, the DP, you can be a, you know, assistant director, you can, you know, so there's, you know, there's the arts, and then there's all of these things that make it happen as well. So it's about representation and potential, and that's why it's so important, I think.
Right, right. I think that also you can be an arts administrator at a film festival and work
Exactly. There you go.
pool parties and
There you
meet
go.
awesome people
There you go. Mm-hmm.
for a living.
Mm-hmm.
My last question. Billie Holiday was one of the first artists to sing in front of integrated audiences in New York. In the film, you recreate a moment that she sings Strange Fruit. It's beautiful and it's haunting. Watching this scene, I considered that I will never know what it's like to be white and what it feels like to hear the lyrics of Strange Fruit. But hearing it as a Black woman is visceral every single time. Um, can you both talk a little bit about how you were able to capture the intensity of the song in that scene from the perspective of the director Lee, the performance, Andra, and maybe also some production elements that helped to get that intensity into focus?
It was one shot from the time that she got off of the bus until the time that she got on the stage to sing Strange Fruit. So it was probably the most challenging thing I've ever done as a filmmaker. We rehearsed it with the AD and my production designer and my cinematographer. I think we had a week sort of rehearsal for it after we finished shooting. But they sort of did it the day of. I don't believe you. Did y'all have rehearsal the day before? I don't think you did. You just sort of went for it that day. Yeah. And so it's not just about the acting, you know, it was about, because the acting was a given, but everybody had to be, if one person was not in their place and the cameraman wasn't doing his thing, it was a wash. We shot it 3 takes. The very first take was the one that we used because everybody was in the moment. It was very difficult. I think the hardest part was making sure that the children, how those children were crying, and they instinctively knew to cry with watching that woman on the tree, and her husband holding her up. Yeah, that was rough. It was like, and I wanted you to feel a little bit of jazz, like what at that moment. It should feel like jazz. It should feel like you're a little bit high. You're in Billie's head. What is it like? You got. It's a jazz song showing a lynching, and you're a little high on heroin as you're going through the labyrinth of the insanity of what Billie's going through. Each stop that she stops in that shack before she hits the stage to sing it. It was emotional to shoot, and I never want to do it again because it was hard for me. Just like I cried throughout the shoot doing it, and so did my DP, and so did the actors. It was hard. That's the best way to describe it. I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I cried watching it. So, you know, you communicated that experience and shared that experience with us. Andra Day, you are a force, and we are all looking forward to what we can see for you next. What are your dreams? What are your dreams, real quickly, before we close out here?
I'm gonna probably just keep doing stuff with Lee, you know. I like that character. My dreams are, you know, I mean, shit, this is a dream I didn't know I wanted, and came true in a way that has transformed me. So, but I do have a desire. I think it's funny because they always laugh at me. You know, Ty would still be laughing at me now. He was like, I thought she was retired from movies. Because I used to tell them on set, I was like,
well,
they're like, this is such a good first movie. I said, this is the first and it's the last. Because it was just so, like, you know, it was so, I mean, it took everything. It took everything from everybody at all times. You know what I mean? And there's no way to overstate that. But I will say, you know, now having been like, what are we, like a year and some change out, you know, I have a desire to tell more Black stories, more marginalized stories, people's stories. There's, you know, I was telling Leah, says, you know, after watching, for instance, even a movie like Hidden Figures, I was like, do you know what that would have done for me as a young girl to know that 2 Black women were largely responsible. Her math got us to space, and that the Black woman was responsible for basically programming the first computer, you know. you know, or again, like learning that it was the sacrifice of a slave and his brave act that netted us the US as we know it. You know what I'm saying? Like, only to come back and still be slaves. So I have a desire to tell equally, as you had mentioned earlier, equally our stories that cover the, I always say this, the depth of our struggle and the breadth of our contribution. You know what I mean? Like, there's, people don't understand how much, with such a racist fabric, with such a history of racial terror, what it means that we have so many Black people that contributed to the survival, to the health, to the thriving of this nation. And so I think that I do have a desire to tell those stories. So I'm, you know, I definitely want to like co-write and co-produce, co-direct some stuff, and you know, I don't know, probably act in a couple more Lee Daniels films, and then you know, like, but yeah, I want our stories told. I want to do that, and I'm laser focused on that, and I'm passionate about it for sure.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, the Mill Valley Film Festival Contenders season. It's been a joy interviewing you both, and I really hope that we can, at some point in the near future, have you visit us in Marin, the California
That would be
Film
great.
Institute. Thank you so much.